Hello there. We're here with Kyle Hoke with San Diego State University. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, Kyle, you're one of many coaches that are out here today at the Serra de La Salle Joint Spring Showcase. Tell me about the day. How are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, it's been great. I think it's always fun to see the high school guys come out and compete. A lot of coaches are around today. Props to Coach Walsh and Coach Allenbaugh for getting together and kind of creating a cool concept where they can kind of help promote their football programs.
Very cool. And so is this common? Do you see a lot of joint showcases in your line of work?
Yeah, I would say, some states do a little bit more than others. I think California probably, in Southern California, there's a few schools that get together. But I think with such a talent-rich recruiting area like the Bay Area is, I think these two schools being, Serra de La Salle, the big brands up here getting together, I think it makes it pretty special. That's
very cool. And so can you tell me just generally speaking just about, I think a lot of parents that listen to our podcast, this is just a high school podcast.
Sure.
We're the not quite the next level, but a lot of parents are very interested in how the collegiate process goes, just objectively speaking.
Sure. So, for me, the way we do it at San Diego State is we're kind of divided up into certain areas. Mine would be the Bay Area. So, as an area recruiter, you go into different high schools. So I'll come into Serra, meet with Coach Walsh, and really you're trying to, in the springtime, gather a bunch of names and information.
Awesome.
What's this guy's grades? How is his character? Can he play? Do you think he can play at the next level? Obviously, Coach Walsh has had a lot of guys go on to the NFL, so he's a good barometer for that, and his recommendations. So you kind of just go to all those different schools, you kind of amass a list, and then the coaches take it back to the campus, and that's really what we're doing a lot in the spring as coaches. Before spring ball, doing a lot of film evaluation of high school prospects for the next year.
So like you look at huddle tape.
Exactly. Okay. It's big huddle tape. So, a lot of times guys have their Twitter set up, which I think is greatly beneficial. Really easy way for a coach to follow a kid and, get information on them, reach out to them. Hey, here's my number. All that stuff, and then having the link of the huddle in the Twitter bio I think is a big thing too. It makes it easy for us just to be able to click to their huddle link, and there's their highlight, there's their game clips and all that stuff. So
for a high school athlete that wants to market themselves and believes that they have the stuff for the next level, it would be good to take some time to invest in your own social media handle.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I say Twitter because it's the one that I probably am most familiar with and the one that I use, but I would say now that's kind of like your recruiting resume. You know what I mean? That's the first look. So, who are you following on there? I think is important to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
What you're posting on there, as we all know, in 2023
absolutely.
is extremely important.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah, to kind of what you're doing. But that's kind of the first intro to a guy. And again, like I said, have the huddle link in there. If you got an NCAA ID, you can post it on there. Some GPA stuff is always a good, quick thing that'll obviously always be checked by us through the high school and the transcript. But I think it's a great way to go about it.
Great, that's a great concept. And then, so tell me about the grades. How much do grades matter?
Oh, grades matter greatly. I mean, obviously just for the standards you have school by school academically, but I think it tells a story about, what kind of worker he is, how seriously is he taking things that are important in his life. So, you have some guys who, want to play football and maybe didn't focus as much on their grades as a freshman, sophomore, but then they see this, doors are closing unless I have that high GPA, and the higher it is, the more doors that stay open. So, they finish strong, take it a little more seriously junior, senior year, but grades are always the most important thing. You're a student athlete, go and get that degree, and we all know the percentages of the number of guys who go on to play in the NFL. Great higher percentages of guys who go on to do, business or whatever the line of work or major is. So
because they're not just going to play football; they're going to be a student athlete as well at the next place, right? So that's good advice. And so you mentioned earlier, that Coach Walsh has had not a lot, but we have had NFL players have come through this program. Can you talk at all objectively, not specifically, about just the Serra program in general and what you think of it as a member of a collegiate recruiting staff? Yeah,
I mean, we have I'm probably a little lucky to be at San Diego State that we have a few former Padres on our roster, and I can just say, you can tell they're in a football program in high school that is developing them for the next level. Those guys are all stand-up teammates, know how to act, when coaches aren't around. They're probably some of our hardest workers on the team. They come in ready, and I think their expectation of what college football is, they seem a little bit more the transition, I guess I should say, is a little bit easier for them just because of the structure that's been built here. So
interesting.
I think it makes a difference. It does.
That's great. That's wonderful to hear. And just lastly, is there a season for you? You said that, of course, around spring is when you're, on campuses? Like what in the fall? I mean, are you focusing on your team?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. Yeah, I would say the spring and the summertime is where we do the bulk of our recruiting. We'll get out to different campuses and travel around through the end of April, probably in the month of May. And then once that camp season, if you want to call it that, you kind of transition into June where we're going out to the satellite camps, like the Sacramento State camp, huge camp for us in Northern California. There's some Redlands camps we go to down in Southern California. We have our own on campus. And then we'll even get out as far as probably SMU, TCU mega camps are the ones we kind of hit. Okay,
so then you're seeing the athletes on their campuses in high school, and then you're going out and seeing them all compete against each other in one camp. Yeah. Got it. Awesome. And so those camps are beneficial to any athlete?
Oh, extremely. Yeah. It's just, it's like give and take. You can go to you can come to our camp where you get to work with our coaches, learn how we do things, and there's a lot of benefit there. Or you can go to a, quote unquote mega camp like the Sacramento State's TCU's where, yes, there's a lot of student athletes or high school prospects there. You cannot get as many reps, but then your exposure is going to be a little bit higher because of all the number of coaching staffs that are there. So, what is better? I can't say that. I think it's a little bit different for everybody and where you're at in the recruiting process, but I think they're both beneficial, in the spirit of helping guys get exposure and get that opportunity.
Great. Kyle, thank you so much. This is so helpful. There are things you've touched on that we've never even brought on this podcast. So I do appreciate your time, and it's always great to see you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.